You must not eat from the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, looking at it, probably. And you must not touch it, or you will die. Two things Eve does. The first one she does right. And that is, she corrects the serpent with the truth, which God clearly said in Genesis chapter 2. Let me read it. He said, He commanded them, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will certainly die. Eve comes back to the serpent with the truth, but she adds to it. She exaggerates it. She takes it to another level and says, oh, he also said you can't even touch it or you'll die. God didn't say that. And there's a reason why God put that in the Bible, so that we could see it. So that we could see what is happening in Eve right now. What is going on? Well, what's going on is that something is stirring up inside of Eve. Probably because of what the serpent said to her. Because the serpent came with this very confident tone of voice. What, did God really say you can't eat from any tree? That got Eve thinking. That got Eve going inside. And there was something stirring her that caused her to exaggerate a little bit God's strictness. Because subconsciously there was something working in her saying, yeah, this isn't quite right and we can't even touch it. Then the serpent responds. And again, the serpent does two very powerful things. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not certainly die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The serpent does two very influential things here. The first thing he does is he directly, blatantly contradicts God's word. He blatantly calls God a liar and says, I don't care what God said. You will not die. Directly contradicts God's word, and then he takes it to another level. Before we go to that other level, do you understand now that Satan knew exactly what tree that they were not to eat from? Satan played kind of the dummy in the beginning. Oh, did God say you really can't eat from any of the trees? He knew what tree they couldn't eat from. And he knew more about that tree than Adam and Eve ever could have dreamed. He knew everything about that tree. And he lied. And he contradicted God's words. But he goes on and he says to Eve, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now that sounds good, right? That sounds good to Adam and Eve. Wow, why would God not want our eyes to be open? Because Satan was doing this. He was saying to Eve and Adam, God is keeping something from you. God is holding you back. What's in that thing? It's going to make you like him. And you know how cool he is. You know how awesome he is. You know that he has everything figured out. And you want what he wants. And he doesn't want you to have it. He's keeping that thing from you. And the woman, she reconsiders. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and she ate it, and she gave some to her husband Adam, who was right there with her. Some people paint this picture of Eve coming and seducing Adam sexually. That's a ridiculous story. That's nothing of what happened in the Bible. Adam and Eve were right there. They both chose to eat that. The woman, we read, Eve, she looks at that thing, much like our gorilla friend. And she says, wow. Now I've seen all the other fruit in the garden, and I know what tastes good. That looks good. That fruit is gorgeous. Maybe it was the most beautiful tree in the garden. Well, it was to her. at the time. It captivated her. That fruit looks delicious. Why would God not want me to taste something that good? Something that's, it's got to be good for my body. It probably has all kinds of good nutrients in it. Look at it, it's luscious. Why wouldn't God want me to have that food? And not only that, but that thing's going to make me like God. Why would God want to hold me back? And she reconsiders. Maybe God isn't who I think He is. Satan's got her thinking that God is some sort of tyrant or some sort of dictator who wants to control and manipulate her life for his own selfish purposes, and she falls for it, and she eats it. Some of you may be thinking right now, so what? So what? Adam and Eve ate from a tree. So what? What's the big deal? I had some high school kids come in here when I was here during the week. And they definitely weren't Christians. And they were coming in here cussing and talking. And I handle that fine. I don't have a problem with that because I try to meet people where they are. So we were talking back and forth and we were laughing. And they said some obnoxious things. Fine. I'm just trying to minister to these guys. Show them I love them. Gave them some pop. And I gave them my cell phone number and they left. I said, hey guys, see you later. Come by, anytime. And I told them I was going to look at their MySpace, show an interest in them. All of a sudden, one of them calls me up on the phone about 10 minutes later. Hey, this is an anonymous caller. I knew exactly who it was. This is the one who thought he was really funny. He was really smart aleck, arrogant kid. He's not here today. Maybe one day he will. Hey, I'm an anonymous caller. I want to know, sir, what do you think about marijuana? What is your position on marijuana? And all his friends were laughing in the background, and we started talking, and I tried to speak with them and in a way that would meet him on his level. Then all of a sudden he goes, hey, you know what? I heard that tree that Adam and Eve ate of, that was really marijuana, and that's what killed them, and that's why we shouldn't smoke marijuana. Is that true, Pastor? All his friends started laughing. I said, marijuana, huh? I said, well, first of all, we know that it was a fruit, so it wasn't marijuana. But I said, you know what? That story is not about what kind of fruit was on that tree. That story isn't about whether Adam and Eve ate an apple, which probably wasn't an apple. It wasn't about whether they ate a pear or an orange or some kind of fruit that we never seen. It doesn't matter. It wasn't about that. That's not the point of the story. So what's the big deal? Adam and Eve ate a piece of fruit. No, it's much bigger than that. Last week we learned that God created all of this awesome stuff, and I showed you a little bit of science and how that works together, and it'll just blow your mind. We could talk for years about that. It'll blow your mind. And He gave all this to Adam and Eve. He said, this is yours. All this stuff is for you because I want you to be happy. And I want you to see all this stuff, it comes from me. It's all about me. I'm the source of all of it. And I want you to enjoy me. And I want this place to be fun. All of this stuff is for you. And if you remain in me, there it is. But He gave him a choice.